I was little, Andrea Bocelli sang a version of Conte Partiro, or Time to Say Goodbye, to Elmo on Sesame Street. It was called Time to Say Goodnight. At 3, I couldn't talk about chord structure, melody, or the original lyrics. I just knew that it was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. I wanted to hear it again and again. It was the first time, though certainly not the last, that I fell in love with music. And it's that love of music that has brought me here. Hello, my name is Matrick Thorpe, this is my cello, and these are some of the lessons I've learned through music. Never underestimate how a bit of your time and encouragement can change someone's life. When I was 10, I decided that I needed to learn cello. So I went to school, and I discovered that I could, but not until the next year. Seeing my disappointment, the orchestra teacher gave me permission to watch the older kids practice. After a few months, he lent me a cello and some books. It changed my life. While some people may say that Mr. Mink was just doing his job, by giving me the encouragement, opportunity, and tools to pursue my love of music, he is absolutely one of the reasons I'm on this stage right now. Being kind is just as important as being skilled at your job. When we bought my first cello, it was delivered in a huge box. We opened it up, took the cello out, and discovered that it wasn't actually playable. Needing help, we took it to the Tampa Violin Shop. Well, I remember thinking 3 things as the luthier inspected my cello. Wow, this place is magical. Uh-oh, better not touch anything here. And then, I don't think we belong here. You see, like many beginner instruments, my first cello was not high quality. In fact, it was maybe, probably, okay, definitely, not even wooden. Or carbon fiber, for that matter. And for those of you that don't know, a luthier is someone that builds and repairs instruments. He could have crushed me, validated the fear that my instrument and I weren't good enough. But he didn't. Instead, he just smiled and said that they'd be there to help when I was ready to step up into the next level. As he worked on my cello, he had me test each one there, listening for differences in tone, color, and responsiveness. That was invaluable because it taught me that every instrument has its own unique voice. Being a beginner is never easy, but it's a lot better in a supportive environment. The right teacher is everything. For a cellist, studying classical means Bach. And when I started the Bourrée from Suite 3, it sounded a bit like this. I could play the notes, but I didn't understand what those notes were actually trying to communicate. For that, I needed a dedicated cello teacher. Enter the most important woman in my life, besides my mom. My cello teacher, Anne. She tried to help me understand the Bourrée by explaining that it was a dance, which meant almost nothing to me. Until she had me stand up and we mimicked the motions of a Baroque dance. This is not historically accurate. Da da dun da da dun dun da 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 dun da da dun da da dun da 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 da. You guys get the idea. That was the approach I needed. Once I understood that the phrases or groups of notes were representing 2 dancers, I got it. Fast forward a few years, and you hear the difference immediately. And everything I do right, I can lay at her feet. Everything else is a work in progress. Embracing new ways to connect with the world around you isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. As a PE coach, my dad had difficulty embracing that music was my sport. I had this idea that if I could just find the right piece of music, he'd understand my obsession. In that search, I found this etude by Eugene Friesian called Slap. Trust me, I fell in love with it too. Reaching out, I found out that not only was he a talented composer and cellist, but also an innovative teacher. And by innovative, imagine this. 20 of us, all sitting in a circle with our eyes closed, imitating frogs. That may sound silly at first, but it's actually brilliant. It's an exercise in listening to each other, practicing calm response without the fear of the dreaded wrong notes. That prevents many musicians from ever trying improv. And for those of you curious, hearing Eugene give a concert involving looping, global rhythm, sounds from nature, and improv was exactly what my dad needed to understand my love for music. For that, I will always be grateful to him. Life is what happens when you're busy making plans. After time with Eugene, I really started to get into the groove of who I was. Busy with music every day and always planning for the next. Unfortunately, I then developed mastoiditis, an infection in the bone behind the ear that has left me partially deaf. I won't lie to you, it felt like my body had betrayed me. I spent months holding my cello, crying, because we couldn't talk to each other in the same way anymore. But eventually, as the doctors predicted, I adapted. For example, vibrations are incredibly important to me now in a way that's, frankly, almost indescribable. And I definitely hold my cello differently now. But the biggest change isn't in my hearing. It's in this constant awareness of time. How I spend it, who I spend it with, and how to make it more meaningful. I find that thought process often extending to music, which is a little bit tricky with audiences because everyone experiences music differently. Some people listen to remember, while others listen to forget. But everyone has preferences. So how do I make something resonate with each of you? It's not the amount of time that I invest in a piece, because I know that if I play this, which took me minutes to learn, sing along if you know it. I'm going to have to pull this video up again when it's actually my birthday for that. Thanks, guys. But compare that to this, which took me months to learn. In a year from now, even if I played that entire Saint-Saëns concerto, you are likely going to remember singing Happy Birthday together more prominently. And that's because shared experiences are incredibly powerful. And for the final point I want to make, that answers the burning question I know all of you have. Why do all cellists relentlessly play the Prelude from Bach Suite 1? First, it's public domain, so we don't have to pay thousands to perform it. That's pretty nice. Second, we don't have to hire an accompanist and pray that they show up. But thirdly, and really most importantly, the first piece of classical music where we learn to put a bit of ourselves into the translation. You see, the Bach suites have very little marking, meaning that the phrasing, dynamics, and overall imagery are largely left up to the musician. That's why the suites are such a lifetime journey. As I get older and change, how I play this will as well. Speaking of journeys, as I play this final piece for you, I want you all to imagine a leaf floating down a river in an endless cycle of peace, chaos, beauty, just like life. And whether you listen to remember or listen to forget, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.